Hi, I just want to start by saying I don't have an actual presentation visual. Um, well, for two reasons. One, I'm using a computer that isn't mine, that has a camera. My computer doesn't have a camera that works. And as was mentioned, a lot has changed in the last 10 days. So I've been out like protesting almost every single day. So my priorities have um, shifted, and
Okay,
I
so sorry, Emma Lewis, we can't hear you clearly. Maybe you speak a bit closer to the microphone. And I understand that are you in the UK at the moment or in the States?
yeah,
In the
I'm in
UK,
London.
in London. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I think I'm not going to change what I was going to say, but I think that definitely shifts a lot of what I was talking about, because now I have had so much contact with so many people, even during this time of quarantine, and kind of making that decision too. But what I'm going to write about goes from Jo's kind of concept of well, this is taken from her paper. Here's one I made earlier. And she talks about the repeat of motifs and comforting rhythmic practices, such as sewing and cooking, creating a pattern that promote a sense of well-being and calm, or stability in an unstable world. And kind of talking about how that crafting for me was that like craving repetition and meditation through embroidery, as well as like a physical contact with fabric. So I'm going to be talking mostly about my own work, because I make clothes, and then how that ties into Instagram, and how Instagram has become a call for action, but as well kind of transforms the nature of a physical, intimate act such as embroidery. So Instagram for me became the kind of biggest sphere of sewing and craft as a call to action. A lot of initiatives were started in London to get designers and creatives who otherwise would be sewing for money to sew scrubs for the NHS, as well as sewing masks. And kind of there was a really big public display of all this. I am I've been quarantining at my boyfriend's house where my sewing machine isn't. So I started embroidering underwear to sell and donate the proceeds to the Emergency Designer Network, which they are making scrubs. And kind of this interplay between craft, activism, the social media sphere, and yeah, basically that's it. So kind of the first like interaction with it as well was trying to buy an embroidery hoop, which was completely impossible. They were sold out everywhere, and that was a really great indication that everyone has been returning to craft during this time. People are craving to embroider and to touch needles and to sew, and in a very similar way that banana bread, like flour was impossible to buy here, but so was like any sort of sewing equipment. It was kind of a desire more to like engage with physicality, to be able to sew and touch fabric, and then being able to send that to my friends. Two of my best friends are now wearing underwear that I've made, and it's on their body, and one of them is in America, the other one is in Berlin, and like it could realistically be months or years before I see them again, as opposed to, I mean, I was literally meant to see both of them in the last few months. So kind of there's like a double physical interplay, because not only am I getting a satisfaction from creating and from having this practice, where also when I'm embroidering, I can't be looking at the news, I can't be constantly stimulated by other people's activities, but also then having my friends wear it at a time where I can't hug them, I can't see them. But that kind of got me, as I have, turns it into a performative productivity. And when no other productivity is possible, because I'm 24 and a lot of people my age have been completely laid off from their jobs, the only kind of productivity possible has been craft. And I've seen people turn to making soap, people turning to dye-dyeing, and all these things that are usually really intimate hobbies and things that you would do with friends or make for friends become monetized. And instead of this like serene therapeutic act, it then becomes a symptom of a capitalist driven need for creativity and productivity, even when nothing else is possible. And that kind of got me thinking about William Morris and their writings on arts and crafts at that time. And he really focuses on the intention and kind of how his people, they intended to make art, and therefore their crafts are art, and everyone else is just making pieces of objects. And I kind of want to disagree with that, because there's always a multiplicity of intentions. And I wanted to investigate how embroidery is, for me, both an intimate physical act that genuinely provides like respite in this time, as well as a performance, and kind of how like this endless social media thread is, it kind of breaks down, I think, especially for my generation, but everyone, like there is no more public and private. And at a time where we had no access to the public, the private was our only display of that. And yeah, I really, this is kind of how, as far as I've gone so far, but it's really about like engaging with that and kind of trying to see if all of these ideas can fit together neatly, or if there's like an idea of hypocrisy around crafting for oneself as well as for others without it being like a physical interplay. And yeah. That's it from me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wonderful and inspiring talk. And Susan says that, yes, you expanded concept of touch, which I think is, yeah, has become increasingly important while we were all quarantined. Maybe you comment on this touch issue.
Yeah, well, I think for me, because I was also working on a film kind of around the idea of touch and visibility of touch, and I think there was a lot of frustration. I mean, I've been really lucky to be able to quarantine with my boyfriend, and so we do have physical intimacy, but for a really long time I would see my mom once a week to go grocery shopping together, but from 2 meters apart, and kind of this like really strange thing of being able to see people, especially on screens, but not be able to hug them, or having family members that you can't touch even if you can see them. And I think there's definitely something, I was also sending postcards to my friends, and then they were returning new ones, and the idea of being able to hold something that someone you loved has hold when you can't hold them, it was like really important. And I think for me especially, like, to be very honest, like there was that whole thing about how is it going to go back to normal, but I bumped into a friend at a protest and I ran and hugged him, and it was like this complete dissonance between having spent 3 months being so careful and wearing gloves and masks and everything, and like as soon as it broke down, really at the end of the day all you want is to touch the people you love. So yeah.
Yes, heartbreaking actually. Yes, and the thing is that we have we have shared this colleagues questions, comments.
Yeah,
I'm trying to see if there are any hands which are raised.
I can share something tiny if I'm allowed.
Yes.
I am getting ready for my next exhibition, and it includes a lot of work done by hand, and for my own reasons I needed to buy lots and lots of embroidery hoops. I discovered that it was literally impossible to do either in Israel or in Russia. It was all sold out at the very beginning of the lockdown, and it only came back to sales maybe a week ago, and I'm starting to buy it right now. So you're not alone in the UK. We are experiencing it here as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it seems like we've been experiencing the same things all over the world, and that's how I actually came to the idea of this conference, because it's not only about like the idea to research, but the fact that we had this unique moment, all of us. So, do we have any other comments? Well, yeah, just people saying thank you so much. Yes, and Anna says, Anna Anisimova, my students did hoops from the yogurtlets. Okay, very creative. And Susan, well, asks if any videos are available, which we could see.
In reference to me?
Yes.
I am still working on all of them, but I'm sure I made quite a few in the beginning, and it was kind of all about seeing people, seeing people touch. But then again, this now feels all really strange in this context that I have, like, now interacted with so many people. But definitely there was a lot of me recording my friends while I was doing other things with my hands. Like, I was making collages while my best friend was talking to me on Skype and things like that. But yeah, I'm sure I can share some videos as well.
Thank you. Yes, and I could see actually that Claire Rose was making something with her hands throughout the conference. And Hazel Clark says, just an observation, having started knitting again for the first time in years, I found the touch of the wool and the slow process very reassuring. Right, there is much to think about. Emma Louise, thank you so much for your presentation.